Hello, and welcome to the Apollo Nemesis Briefing. I'm Professor James Pembroke, philosopher, occasional heretic, and your host for Civilization's post-performance review. Here, we examine the choreography of modern life, how power performs, how truth disguises itself, and how the stage lights of politics never quite go out. If you enjoy a little wit with your reason, a little irony with your analysis, then you're among friends, so settle in. And if this brief provokes thought, amusement, or the odd grim smile, do the civilized thing, press like, subscribe, and help keep the lamp burning for independent thinkers and mischief-making academics everywhere. Now, on with the briefing. Good evening, and welcome once more to the Apollo Nemesis Briefing. Tonight we discuss a thinker who understood the ruins of modern civilization before most of us had even noticed the cracks. Mark Fisher, cultural theorist, teacher, ghost of the postmodern classroom, and the man who gave us the phrase capitalist realism. In Fisher's world, capitalism isn't merely an economic system, it's the air we breathe, the weather of our emotions, the architecture of despair. He once said, "It's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism." And he was right. We now have 100 ways to picture apocalypse, but not one serious way to picture an alternative economy. To help me make sense of this morbid miracle, I'm joined by my colleague and friend, and sociologist, philosopher, and occasional prophet of doom, Professor Ludvík Orbanov. Ludo, welcome back to the fire.
James, my friend, it is good to be here, yes. You make such warm fire, even if world outside is very cold.
That's the spirit. Let's begin with Fisher's phrase, capitalist realism. He said it's the widespread sense that not only is capitalism the only viable system, but that it is now impossible even to imagine a coherent alternative. So, Ludo, what's your reading?
You see, yes, Fisher. He understood that capitalism now lives not in factory, but in the soul. Ideology works best when she no longer calls herself ideology. In my youth in Czechoslovakia, we had socialism, heavy, slow, ridiculous sometimes. But it admitted it was system. You could see the walls. Now, in capitalist realism, there are no walls, only mirrors. We look and we see freedom. But it is same small room. Capitalism, she becomes total environment. She sells you your rebellion, your despair, your self-expression. She is jealous God with good branding.
Jealous God with good branding. That's very you, Ludo. But yes, Fisher called that reflexive impotence. The feeling that we can see the problem perfectly, tweet about it endlessly, but still do nothing. It's the condition of political depression, lucid, self-aware, and paralyzed.
Yes, like man who knows he is drowning, but water is his salary.
Beautifully put, and painfully true. Fisher's insight, I think, is that neoliberalism colonized not just our economics, but our imagination. We now consume alternatives as lifestyle options. Everything becomes a brand, even critique.
This is very Bauman, yes? Liquid modernity. All solid things melt, and what remains? Feeling, brand, network. Capitalism survives every crisis because it swims. It becomes emotion, desire, anxiety.
Indeed, Fisher said we live in a world without outside. Even our dissidence becomes a product category. Spotify, for instance, will give you anti-capitalist chill-out playlists.
Yes, revolution with good algorithm. You see, for Fisher, the true tragedy was not greed, but exhaustion. He writes like man who sees not villains, but tired people, each pretending to be happy worker, happy consumer. He understands that depression is not private failure, but social symptom.
Yes, revolution with good algorithm. You see, my friend, for Fisher, the true tragedy was not greed, but exhaustion. He writes with the tone of a man who sees not villains, but tired people, everyone hustling, pretending to be the happy worker, the happy consumer. He saw that depression, mental illness itself, was a social symptom, not a private failure. Exactly. His most radical claim was psychological, that depression in capitalist society is a form of realism, because to feel fine in a collapsing culture might actually be the pathology. He wanted us to treat mental illness not as deviation, but as truth serum.
And this is brave, but also dangerous, yes? Because once you see pain as social truth, then all politics becomes therapy. And in therapy, nobody is wrong, only misunderstood. You know, in Marx we had class, in Freud we had repression, in Fisher we have burnout. The world moves from exploitation to exhaustion.
And exhaustion, unlike exploitation, has no visible enemy. You can't strike against malaise. You can't protest your own dopamine receptors.
No, but you can cancel your therapist. This is new form of rebellion, I think.
Touché. There's something else I admire in Fisher. He mourned the loss of the future. That phrase appears again and again, the slow cancellation of the future. He meant that our culture, once obsessed with the new, now endlessly recycles the old. Music, fashion, politics, even rebellion. It's all retro, nostalgia, reboot, remix, as if time itself has been privatized.
Yes, we live in museum of our own youth. Every decade returns, but weaker, more ironic. Fisher, he grieves like man at funeral of hope. In postmodern capitalism, hope is replaced by management, where once you had dream of revolution, now you have strategy document for well-being.
Yes, the corporate utopia. Resilience workshops instead of resistance movements.
Exactly. The soul is exhausted, but very productive.
And yet, I sometimes wonder if Fisher's diagnosis is too perfect. Capitalist realism explains so much that it risks explaining everything.
Yes, it becomes what he hated, total system. Even critique becomes part of the realism. Say, there is no alternative, you serve system. Say, system has captured even critique, you serve again. Now you sound clever, but powerless.
The Ouroboros of irony, critique that eats its own tail. He was caught in that too, I think. He knew too much to believe, but cared too much to stop hoping.
Ah, yes. He loved the world that disappointed him. This is tragic intelligence, same as Marx, as Adorno, to be awake and still wish to dream.
Ludo, let me press you on this. Is there any escape from capitalist realism?
Escape? No, but maybe small leak. Fisher spoke of acid communism. Strange phrase, yes, but he imagined world where pleasure, not guilt, was revolutionary. He died before he finished this thought. I think he meant we must rebuild imagination, not only economy. Maybe we start with art, education, community, not slogan, but experience of different rhythm of life.
So not a manifesto, but a mood.
Yes, mood of possibility. In old socialism, we had too much structure, no air. In capitalist realism, we have too much air, no structure. We must find middle, breath with bones.
Breath with bones. That's pure Ludo. So if Fisher is the cartographer of our psychic capitalism, what does he teach us as teachers?
He teaches humility, that students are not lazy, they are tired, that politics is not theater, it is therapy for collective despair, that irony without love becomes cruelty.
Perhaps that hope without realism becomes delusion.
Yes, my friend. Between them, hope and realism, maybe there is still small space to live.
So, to summarize, Mark Fisher taught us to see capitalism not as a villain, but as a dream that outlived its believers. We are haunted not by socialism, but by the memory of a world that once imagined change. My thanks to Professor Ludvík Orbanov, philosopher, melancholic, and the only man I know who can make despair sound hopeful. If tonight's discussion stirred thought, or at least distracted you from the algorithm for 20 minutes, do the civilized thing, like, subscribe, and help keep the lamp burning for independent thinkers and mischief-making academics everywhere. I'm James Pembroke, and this has been the Apollo Nemesis Briefing, where irony is still a public service and truth occasionally sneaks past the censors disguised as wit. Until next time, lux ratio retributio. Good night.